folks, welcome aboard the channel. I'm Don. I'm taking a look at Russell Brand today. I've not done anything of Russell's on the channel. I don't know much about him. I know he's a very popular figure out there, and I guess he's got like big following on stuff, but this is why I believe in God. This is what he's going to say. So anything theological or anti-theological, I'll take a look at. So in order to refute theology, you've got to be thinking about it, and then you've got to state why, and that's a theological discussion. Even though it's anti-theology, it's still theological. That's what I mean by this. So we're going to find out what he thinks, why he believes in God. Let's see. Here we go.
A groundbreaking discovery has just been made in regards to the Shroud of Turin.
You know, I've recently become a Christian. That don't mean you have to become a Christian. I mean, it's working for me pretty well. I feel an incredible relief in this nihilistic time, bereft of all meaning, filled with corruption and loss, with no virtue except for that which is signaled, with no principles except for those that can be utilized. The idea that the creator of the simulation stepped inside the simulation himself to show us how we might live, to redeem us, to offer himself in sacrifice, to me seems incredible. But where is the historical, empirical, scientific evidence for it? Well, it seems that the Shroud of Turin, at least, may be.
First, he's speaking of what he was alluding to there was that Jesus, in his dual nature, is fully God, fully man, but he disrobed himself of his glory. This is language that's been used throughout the basically 2 millennia of the Christian writings, that Jesus disrobed himself of his glory, came down into the world, and lived life as a man. That's kind of the thing. So that's what he meant by this simulation, and then he inserted himself into it and all that.
Legitimate. Now, religion is always going to be, to some degree, a matter of faith. The idea that there is a God, that there is a creator. These are things that will be difficult to empirically demonstrate, in the same way that it's difficult to empirically demonstrate that there was nothing at all preceding the Big Bang, or
True.
that primordial atomic morasses somehow became conscious eventually as a result of heat or light or whatever other agent must have induced biology from mere inert matter. Sooner or later, faith will be required for all of us, and perhaps a faith that encourages us to believe in kindness and service and love and sacrifice, and in a living God that is among us and that wants to raise us out from the hell of modern life, might be more valuable to us than whatever you're being offered on your corrupt propaganda, devil's lantern, hellhole machines, whether they are handheld screens or old-fashioned TV. Let's have a look at this story that the Shroud of Turin may have been legitimized through forensic evidence.
A groundbreaking discovery has just been made in regards to the Shroud of Turin. A controversial linen shroud, regarded by millions to be the one Jesus was buried in, has baffled the world for centuries. The shroud bears a faint image of the front and back of a bearded man, which many believe is Jesus's body miraculously imprinted onto the fabric. But research in the 1980s appeared to debunk the idea it was real after dating it to the Middle Ages, hundreds of years after Christ's death. Now, Italian researchers who used a new technique involving X-rays to date the material have confirmed it was manufactured around the time of Jesus, about 2,000 years ago. The shroud has been preserved since 1578 in the Royal Chapel of the Cathedral of San Giovanni Battista in Turin, Italy.
Fetish, iconography, and idolatry are fascinating areas in themselves. Even if you can carbon date that artifact back to Nazareth 0 AD, then it still doesn't, of course, prove that it's literally Jesus Christ. Neither does it prove that Jesus Christ was the Son of God. In fact, those things by their nature are difficult to demonstrate. But since becoming Christian, I've read a great deal more that leads me to believe personally that Christ was a historical figure and also is the living, risen Son of God. Now, that's not something that I can produce forensic results for, but some of the results that I can offer you are these: that I no longer feel that I live in a disgusting, meaningless, hollow, empty world controlled by dark forces that see me only as a consumer, that I live in a nihilistic and meaningless universe that only sees me as valuable if I am a commodity, that sees meaning and reason and virtue all as commodities that can be shifted and moved around according to the convenience of the powerful. It has reconnected me to the idea of sanctity and the sacred. And I'm fascinated, of course, by figures like Richard Dawkins, who I hope to be debating soon on these very matters. It's interesting to see them say that they are...
Dawkins just said in a video I did, that video I did was titled something like "Why I Don't Debate Creationists." Dawkins gave his reason that he doesn't, so Brand likely wouldn't have debated him.
Culturally Christian, or even as great a mind as Elon Musk, saying that Christian culture is powerful. Indeed, in the Bible it says, by their fruits shall we know them. If what something produces is beautiful, then we know that that thing is beautiful. And many brilliant Christian theists and scholars are able to demonstrate, for example, that if you believe in women's rights or the various rights of human beings, let's just take human rights as a broad concept, you at some point have to acknowledge that there is something either sacred or special about human beings. You have to acknowledge that.
It's our cooperation that put us at the top of the food chain. We cooperate with each other, so we have rules of engagement, and we have laws even, which are part of our broader social constructs that we grew into over time. I don't think we started that way. It was more like everybody for him or herself, but then we discovered, like lions do, they're not the largest animal in the animal kingdom, but they work together, and they can bring down buffalo and such because they work together. Cooperation is mutually advantageous. You see that in the oceans, where you've got like suckerfish that go on other larger fish that would normally just want to eat them, but they let them stay there. They don't brush them off. They're like, go ahead, clean me. Birds go on buffalo and they pick and pick and pick, but they're getting the ticks and the mites and the bugs and all the stuff off of them. And so it's like a mutual agreement, like, go ahead, land on me. I'm not going to keep shaking you off. Stay there and get rid of those things.
To acknowledge that there is some reason why we should treat each other with love and respect. And I'll go a little further. You know, you might say, I treat people with love and respect because it feels like the right thing to do. It feels like the right thing to do. Well, on that basis, if people feel like it's not the right thing to do, if they feel like it's the right thing to do to centralize power, to globalize power, to say that there's no such thing as God and there's no such thing as nature, and the apex of all being and existence is the human mind, and if we want to reorganize our lives and reorganize our bodies and reorganize our systems according to the rational will of the most powerful people, there is no higher idea that prevents us from doing that. We are not creatures created by some omnipotent, omniscient force. No, we are ourselves the vanguard of all being, and it is through reason that we will reorder our lives and the universe. Indeed, it's been stated by no less a mind than Nietzsche that if man worships nothing, they'll ultimately end up worshipping everything. He says, God is dead and nothing we do can wash the blood off our hands, and that we'll create deities of rational and material things. That was his perspective on this, and my perspective is this one. Whilst you may never be able to scientifically prove the existence of Jesus Christ, there are other metrics and measures via which we receive information. Deep within yourself, there is a great power, and you will note how often the culture you live in induces bewilderment and confusion. It is by its nature somewhat diabolical. Sometimes you...
Like, he's speaking so quickly, he's almost like a preacher in a Southern Baptist church.
You look at the world and you wonder why it is this way, and these questions seem to you, don't they, unanswerable. Well, perhaps that's because the world has been captured by a force of darkness. Perhaps that's because they benefit from us being confused and bewildered, and that annihilation is the process of creating nihilism, meaninglessness.
It could also just be that, according to what he's been saying, that our human reasoning about moving around and, the strongest being sets the newest terms and we change that way. It could just be the human reason is frail. We're experimenting along the way. We try things out. They don't work. Hopefully the pendulum swings back the other way, and then we sort of make better progress toward getting along with one another. could be as simple as human reasoning. He keeps referring to it as nihilism, and that there's no meaning whatsoever, and that we're here, we die, and that's it. And he has found greater purpose in his own life, as he has said, by believing that Jesus is the Son of God, and that he hasn't said this, but that there's a better life after this one awaiting, which we commonly call heaven. We'll see if he goes there.
And if there is no meaning, why not have an Olympic ceremony that's about desecration? And if there is no meaning, why not allow people to spill on the streets and treat the planet itself like it's a toilet? Why not? Nothing means anything. There is no beauty. There is no true virtue. There are no real principles. Well, the scientific existence of Jesus Christ would be a step towards that, but the faith-based belief in Jesus Christ is the arrival at that destination, and that's something, at least, that I can testify to honestly, for I have experienced it. But as I say, that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments.
All right, so he just gave a lot of thoughts, meandering at times, but I understand that. He's a smart guy, very high motor, and he made some salient points in there that I like, in the sense that you can't prove it, and that's true. Not being able to disprove it doesn't mean that it's true. For example, so that's sort of the argument that goes back and forth. But as a matter of logic, that's just true. Just because you cannot prove something doesn't mean it's true. Just because you can't disprove something doesn't mean it's either true or false. But he has his personal experience, and he says now he's grounded in a particular belief in a being. And I like that he admits, like, I can't prove it. But, the notions of beauty come up, and you'll study these in philosophy too. But he says, we could just desecrate Olympic stadiums or whatever, ceremonies or whatever he was speaking of. And he made reference to that there being no standard of beauty, not his word, but basically what he communicated. And it's like, well, there won't be universal notions of beauty, even within the Christian community, let's say. One, there is no monolithic group anywhere. So even though you may have Catholics, Lutherans, Methodists, Mormons, all of whom will say, yes, Jesus is either the Son of God or certainly pivotal figure in all of this. But even within the community, there's no universal set of beauty. Like, even the Bible itself is regarded differently. Like in the Catholic Church, what is believed there is predominantly according to tradition. But then in Protestantism, what is believed predominantly because the texts are the Word of God. And the notion that the Bible is the Word of God did not come about. It might be maybe 200 years old, that belief. And for people who are fundamentalists or go to Bible study or just embrace the Bible as the Word of God, that was not the prevailing view until it came into being about 200 years ago. But that's not necessarily the Catholic Church's view of it. So our views of beauty, though, the reason I'm saying this is that our views of beauty will never be universal either. There is no monolithic group. There is no one thing that we could say, wow, that's beautiful. You may be out somewhere and it's raining and you're like, oh, this sucks. That's horrible. A farmer who hasn't had rain says, this is beautiful. Or somebody who has a pond on their property and it's half full and such. And they're like, we've needed rain for so long. They see it as beautiful. So circumstances play into our ideas of beauty as well. I don't disparage Russell whatsoever. I don't disparage anybody for having faith or for having their own reasons. I like people who are open, though, and don't say, look, my ideas are not dispositive. I cannot prove it. It's just what I believe. I had a come to Jesus experience, or however you want to depict it. Russell described a number of his ideas, and it just gave him something that roots him in this world. It's his belief in this, and other things coalesce around that central idea in his life. So anyway, I like looking at all this stuff. It's fascinating to me. It engages the mind, the brain. Sometimes it can make you angry depending on what people say. Sometimes it can make you happy or just give you a smile or just something to think about. And that's what the channel's about. So have a great day, folks. Thanks for playing along. I'll see you on another video and keep thinking theology. Hey, folks, if you want to take the personality test that I created for my life coaching practice, which is based on the book that I wrote, put your phone up, turn it on camera, and focus on this, and it'll take you to it. And it'll take you about 20 minutes to complete the test. It's free, and you'll get some information on your personality. It's quite detailed, quite revealing. It's kind of fun as well. And I'll be leaving this QR code up on the wall behind me for my regular videos. So I hope you take it, and I hope you enjoy it.